Hey everybody. Welcome guys. Great to have everybody here. Hey Matthew, how you doing?
Oh, so happy to be here, Omar. There is no better time than time spent hanging out with you.
Oh my God. We don't do this enough. I had to really do a lot of hard work to get Matthew to do this webinar for our crowd. He's a busy guy. He's really sought after. And he enjoys his downtime. So I'm so pumped to have you, Matthew. It's awesome to have you. We've known each other for like 6 years now or so.
Maybe even
Yeah.
more. Maybe even more.
Yeah. So Matthew is one of those people that knows everybody that you can possibly know. Like he's introduced me to so many people in the entrepreneurial space, in the business space, in the coaching space. He's made so many connections. He's so generous with his time. I remember the day you invited me to that dinner in LA. I was in San Diego at the time, living in San Diego, and you invited Nicole and I to a dinner in LA. And I met so many wonderful people, and I was just like, this Matthew guy is amazing. And it was just so selfless, which is amazing. And I think you guys are going to love today's session because why did I want to bring Matthew on? This is what I want to kind of just introduce you guys to Matthew. So as you join in, guys, on the chat, please introduce yourself, say hello, let us know, where you're tuning in from, but also share with us what you do, who do you serve? That would be super helpful for Matthew as he's going to be delivering today's workshop. So why did I want to bring Matthew on? Well, number one, I probably don't know a better salesperson. And when I say by salesperson, I mean like not only in terms of being able to sell product, but just somebody who is able to do it effortlessly and also just not make you feel like you're being cajoled into something or it's more of an educational process. And this is why I wanted to bring him on, because this is really aligned with our brand. As you guys know, we love to teach and we believe that teaching is the new selling. And I just know that he can provide so much value. Having said, not only is he a great salesperson, but he writes some of the most amazing copy. The last time I spoke to him, I was just like, I forget about catching up. What in the world is this landing page? This is incredible what you've written. His landing page for one of his products is a masterpiece. Like he's just really good at communicating clearly to other people, not a long-winded way. Like I've seen longer sales pages by other gurus. His is a lot more to the point, which is the kind of writing I like, but also just addressing all the concerns or the questions I have as I'm reading the page. So I'm just constantly impressed by his ability to write clear, concise, and just very to the point copy. So you guys are in for a treat. He's going to be teaching you a whole bunch of things about how to make sure that you're writing great emails effortlessly without racking your brain and feeling like you're sweating bullets. I know I've been there before where it's just like, okay, I want to sound smart. I want to sound personal. I want to make sure that it actually converts, but at the same time, I don't want to be somebody I'm not. So all these things are going to kind of, fade in the background, and he's going to simplify things for you today. So Matthew, I'm going to hand it over to you, but I'm here to participate and learn as well.
Well, thank you very, very much, Omar, for the introduction. I want to start actually with a very brief apology. There was a technical glitch which was nobody's fault, which meant that some of you received a delightful email yesterday from me 5 times within 3 minutes. And I did a little bit of investigation, and it turned out that there was an outage with an email service provider, which meant that when they came back up online, it pushed out multiple times the same email. So to most of you who were kind enough to highlight that to me in gentle words, thank you very much. And for the couple of you who told me to go and put my head with the sun, and then hey, so apologies for that. Omar has been a generous and kind and person, but also a great friend of mine over the years, and a great friend to the various businesses that I've been involved in as well. And it's just a terrible shame to me that he now lives on the other side of the world. It's 10 p.m. for me in Malta, which is where I am.
6 a.m. here.
And 6 a.m. for Omar in Australia. So don't say that we don't love you guys. You know, we're here. We're both. I'm burning the midnight oil, and he's caffeinated 2 hours before he should be to bring you this workshop. I'm going I'm going to ask your permission, first of all. I'm going to ask your permission to talk very, very quickly. This is going to be a short presentation. Nobody ever complained that lessons were too long. And so this is going to be a short presentation, and I probably won't take any questions until the end. Doesn't mean you can't put them in to the question box if that's an option, or the chat, or wherever is most appropriate. But having delivered this presentation a number of times now, the flow will serve you and probably give you lots to think about as well. So permission to go very quickly, permission to talk in this impenetrable British accent as well. I'm going to talk quickly. I'm going to talk in a funny accent. And also I'd like your permission at the end of this 50-minute session to point you in the direction of where you can get more help with writing delightful emails. And if that's an okay from all of you, just type okay into the chat. Permission granted. Thank you very much. Good. Okay, makes me feel good. Then with no further ado, I'm going to get started. I asked you, as I have asked thousands of correspondents over the years, how satisfied you are with the way that you are marketing at the moment, or email marketing at the moment. And the question was something along the lines of, if you have a means of sending broadcast emails such as MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit or Infusionsoft or Keep or MailerLite or any of these tools, are you very satisfied, mostly satisfied, or less than satisfied with the results? And I have been collecting this data for years, literally years. This is a screenshot that I took probably 3 years ago, and excuse me, you know, they've just kept piling in. Many of you have responded to the same email that I sent you, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So when marketers typically tell you a number, what is it they say? 72.3% of all statistics are made up on the spot. I can tell you with some confidence that 97% of you statistically are less than satisfied with your results. And in fact, it goes even further than that. Many of you have said you're redonkulously unsatisfied, or super ultra less than satisfied. And this is an enormous shame, of course, because what you've basically got with your email database is the keys to the kingdom, as far as I'm concerned. If you've got a database of prospects, people who've raised their hands to say, talk to me, and you're not satisfied with the results, then it's a very quick and easy fix, and one, in fact, that I think can be communicated in the best part of 45 minutes. So with no further ado, I'm going to give you Delightful Emails 101, how to craft delightful, compelling, persuasive, and easy to write copy to the members of your mailing list, so that you are welcomed and invited to sell to them on a daily basis, if you so choose. When it comes to email, as far as I'm concerned, there are three main problems. And I've been collecting data points on this for a very, very long time. I discovered that I was quite good at writing emails, but I didn't know why. And so what I decided to do was discover the why am I good. I kind of reverse engineered the exact process I had gone through, the results that I had experienced, the beliefs that I had, and the problems that I had overcome. And I tested this against the market. Was this the case that other people had experienced these problems as well? And the problem that comes with emails falls into three large categories. One, people don't know, you don't know how to write without sounding You don't know how to write without sounding like somebody else. So your emails don't sound like you. And there are a few categories that emails tend to fall into. One, you might sound like a bro marketer. And by bro marketer, I mean you've got a lot of yellow highlighter, you've got a lot of urgency, a lot of scarcity, a lot of hyperbole, a lot of all caps, a lot of exclamation marks, because somebody whose copywriting course you did told you that this is how it's meant to sound. The other type of email is the one that sounds stilted, overly corporate, perhaps professional, Dear friend, I trust this email finds you well. We are very proud to announce that Acme Incorporated has recently become ISO 9003 certified. And here's a photo of our chairman cutting a ribbon in front of a factory in an industrial estate. Nobody's reading that. It sounds boring and stilted. The other extreme is what I see a lot of life coaches doing. They end up sounding like every other life coach. It's all bubbles and hearts and unicorns and fairies and oversharing. You make the mistake of treating your list almost like your therapist, or you decide to go super bubbly. You want people to be your friend instead of your buyer. And every time you sit down to write an email, you push it out there, and you know that it doesn't represent you, the brand. And this is problematic. Nod if, give me a yes, an okay, or a thumbs up if you see that getting the tone of emails is tough. Just, yeah, absolutely. We've got a few nods, a few yeses. Yeah, it's true. It's true. We end up creating something which isn't on brand just because we're not sure how to put our voice into it properly. Second problem is we don't know what to write about, which is, a very, very simple problem. You've been told by people that you need to be mailing your list. And that creates a lot of pressure, right? Every time we're told we should do something, we're creating content for our podcasts, for our YouTube channels, for our blogs, for our social media updates, for our Instagram stories, for our Pinstagram stories, and we're content depleted. We're depleted of content. We're coaches. We're service providers. We're not publishers. Since when did every coach also have to be a publisher? Since when did every dentist also have to be a publisher? And we're just stuck with what to write about. And one of the reasons we don't write about more stuff, or the reason we don't write frequently enough, is because it's an effort. And when we finally do know what to write about, we just don't know how to put the words onto that page. It's like, okay, so I know that I generally want to say something about the best type of skis that you should be using this season. But should I begin with an introduction? Should I go straight into the core material? Should I tell a story? Should I give a dictionary definition of what skiing is, which, by the way, is the laziest way to create any kind of content? Sustainability. If you read the Oxford English Dictionary, sustainability is defined as, you always tell very, very poor start. So we're going to spend too long. And how long on average does it take you to write an email? Just type it in. How long on average does it take you to write an email when you sit down to write it? And I know there'll be a big scope here between, okay, an hour. Jackson's got it nailed in. You don't need to be here today, Jackson. Neither does Deborah. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1.5 hours. So that we're pushing towards, a few of us, like there's always a spectrum. A few of us are taking 5 minutes. Justin's taking forever, but an hour seems to be the median there. Around there. That's way too long. We should be pushing them out in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and they should be delightful. So we're going to fix all of these problems. That's my promise to you today. My promise is that we will fix them. And when you fix them, you will make more money. Not only that, but you will do it with a smile on your face. And not only that, but you will be invited in to your prospects' letterbox, mailbox, life, brain, with them having an enormous smile on their face. And what's more, when you don't email them, they will write to you and say, hey, where's my email? Because they will miss you so much. And that's because I believe we must have a philosophy behind our emails. The delightful email philosophy is what underpins everything I'm going to tell you. Now, I could just give you the tools and the techniques, which I will. I will give you the tools and I will give you the techniques. But we're all grown-ups here. And without a deep understanding about why what we're about to do works and being able to step into a new paradigm of email, the tools, a hammer in the wrong hands is incredibly dangerous, and in the right hands, it's incredibly powerful. So I want to fully equip you to use these tools in a way that makes everything bigger rather than just puts a damaging dent into everything. There's there's a misnomer in the world of email, and that misnomer is marketing. It's not email marketing. It's email selling. It's email relationship building. Marketing is what gets you the lead. Marketing is what gets people into your world. And once they come through the door, imagine your marketing department operates outside of the store. The marketing works. People step through the front door. The marketing department are in a back office. The salesperson is the person who steps up and takes over the relationship. So forget about email marketing. It's actually email selling. But what is selling if it's not relationship building? And people will make investments in you that are directly proportionate to the amount of trust that you have earned. Okay, so the more trust that you earn, the more you build this relationship, the greater the sales you will make. And email, there's no better way to do it than through email selling. So
just a quick one, Matthew. Sorry to interrupt, Matthew. Just a quick one. I just wanted to, you can just change the layout so we're not over the slides.
You want to tell me how to do that?
If you go down to the left, there's like a little layout button, and then you could just like put us like on the side, like we call it a bento left or bento right, bento left or bento bottom.
Let's go.
There we go.
Left. There we go. Even better. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much. So bento left. Here's the delightful email philosophy. The delightful email philosophy is the following. Firstly, your email must be provocative, inasmuch that it must provoke a reaction. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be poking people in the eye every time, but it does mean that every email copywriting class you've ever attended that says the most important thing in an email is the CTA is nonsense. If you're building a long-term relationship with your list and you want to sell to them multiple times over and over and over again, the CTR is more important, the call to reaction. So what kind of reaction do we want to provoke when we send the email has got to be the principal thing in our mind. Now, sometimes the reaction is going to be also a call to action. The reaction I want from reading this is that you click on this link and you buy my thing, or you click on this link and you register for my webinar, or you click on this link and you share this missive. But also it can be, think about that. It could also be making you cry. It could also be making you laugh. It could also be making you curious. But unless the email provokes some kind of visceral emotional reaction, then the email is just like any other commercial correspondence that you receive that day. Yes, okay, every piece of commercial correspondence you have in it contains a call to action, every single one. But not every single one, in fact, very few provoke a call to reaction. And that is critical in a delightful email. Secondly, one of the issues that we have when it comes to voice, how do we talk to these people? It's because we're not sure about our relationship with these people. So you need to get very clear on your relationship with your prospects. Now, there's a lot of aggressive language in the world of email marketing. People say, I'm going to blast my list, or I'm going to hit my list 5 times during this promo, or I'm going to demolish I'm going to destroy my list, or I'm going to whack them over the head with an offer. And even calling a group of people who have raised their hand and said, hey, I need your help. Can you please help me? Your list is kind of rude. Now, I will call them your list, but think about that. For me, these are my pen pals. These are my correspondents. It also helps address the question, how frequently should I correspond with this person? Right? Because if somebody raises their hand and says, I need your help, are we actually kind of neglectful if we don't help them as frequently as we can? If we don't correspond with them once a day, once a week, couple of times a day, couple of times a week, isn't that like willful neglect? So you should never feel apologetic about showing up to help someone who says, I need your help. And listen, people opt out with the unsubscribe button once they no longer need your help. It's absolutely fine. But if you can be very clear, your relationship with your list might be different than the relationship that I have with my correspondents. But I like to see them as a family who need guidance. They don't need guidance in every area of my life, and they'd be very, very ill-advised to take my guidance in every area of their life. But when it comes to building a business coaching business or writing emails or selling, I think I've got some expertise to share. But because I'm the head of the family, I want what's best for them. And that means that sometimes, like, I don't know if you have kids, I have 2 kids, right? I'm the head of that family. And sometimes I have to be a disciplinarian. Sometimes I have to whack them upside the head and say, stop being stupid. I still love them, but I have to tell them to stop being stupid. Sometimes I tickle them until they pee their pants, right? That's also the role of the head of the family. Sometimes I'm concerned for their safety, and I want to make sure that they're doing things right. And other times I want to provoke their growth, so I make them do exercises. And sometimes it's fun, and sometimes they need a little bit of cajoling. But I can still go out there and address them in many different ways, because I know that they have raised their hand and I care for them. And I won't speak down to them. They're not my children. They are my adult children. I'll never disrespect their intelligence either. The other philosophy is that an email should always delight 3 times, and you've got to be clear on what your relationship is with your database. Might be different. You could be best friend, you could be drinking buddy, you could be schoolmaster. Doesn't matter. You've got to get clear on what your relationship is. But then when you have the email should delight 3 times, and it should delight. The first time it should delight is when they see your name in their inbox. There should be a little frisson of excitement, like, oh, Omar's just written to me, or, oh, Mike's just written to me. The second time that it delights is when they're reading it. Remember that call to reaction. It's provoking a reaction. They're like, oh, I can't wait to read this email. And I'm reading it. Oh, it was worth the payoff. And the third time that it should delight is when they remember it later. And if they don't remember it later, you've done something wrong. Now, I've been at conferences pre-COVID. I would travel probably 10 to 15 times a year. And I'd be at conferences on the other side of the world, and somebody would walk up to me and they go, hey, you're Matthew Kimberley. And I'd say, yeah. They go, do you remember that email you sent in July 2017 about? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, which bit did you like? I don't know. I'd say, which bit did you like most about it? But if you can have that kind of impact, and I'll show you exactly how you can, then you're well in line with the delightful email philosophy. Quick and very, very important sidebar. Value is one of the most overused and misunderstood words in marketing. You have heard forever and ever from well-meaning people and very smart people that one of the most important things that you must provide is valuable content. Here's my take on value. We spend our time on things that we value. We spend our money on things that we value, and we get emotionally invested in things that we value. Some things are valuable for a brief period of time, and other things are valuable for a longer period of time. They are perennially valuable. And it would take me to look at your credit card statement and your diary for me to work out what's valuable to you. What is the most valuable thing in your life? Type it into the thing that you couldn't bear to lose. Be honest. Omar, brownie points. Yeah,
It's truth.
Yeah, everyone's exactly the same. Your health and your family and your time, right? So I'm getting emotional now. I'm going to swear because I find this so strong. Why do we confound value with instruction? You've got to provide valuable content has become to mean you must provide an instruction manual to your prospects. Here is a how-to. Here's 10 tips Oh, wow, this is insanely valuable. Thank you very much. I tell you what's really valuable to me when the dishwasher breaks down for 3 minutes is the dishwasher instruction manual. It's super valuable. It tells me exactly what I need to do to fix the dishwasher, and then I throw it away. In the scheme of things, this how to fix a broken dishwasher is not valuable. In the scheme of things, 10 tips for better SEO is not valuable. It's valuable for a short period of time when you're interested in fixing your SEO. Now, I'm not saying that you don't provide how-to content. I'm saying you get to let yourself off the hook when you're writing delightful emails from ever again providing actionable content. Instead, what we want is reactionable content. When you can adopt, this is a massive mindset shift for most people. When you adopt this, you can get away with writing absolutely nothing in terms of content to your prospects, and they will love you even more. You no longer have to brainstorm subject matter stuff. You no longer think, how can I provide teaching? I'm a huge fan of teaching, but my ability to teach is finite. And I've been doing this for 10 years. You know, I've got no problem repeating myself. I love to learn. I just don't want to be a teacher day in and day out. If you can replace valuable content with being a person of value, then your value, goes up immensely in the eyes of the prospect. Another question for you. You probably receive 50 to 100, maybe more pieces of correspondence every day. If you just think about, be it text messages, direct messages, emails, if you think about the 3 rules of how many times the email should delight 3 times. The first time is when you see the sender's name in your inbox. Who is the person who sends you the email or the text message that makes your heart flutter a little bit? Type it into the chat. You have to give a first name, but someone's, who is it that writes to you and you go, whoo, I've got a message from this person. Jackson, my wife. Omar. Craig, your wife. Your love, your best friend, your husband. Doesn't this just go to show? Doesn't it just go to show? And what's in the text message from your lover, from your wife, from your husband? Probably absolutely nothing. Maybe it's just a little smiley face emoji. Maybe it's a wink with a suggestion of a little bit of how's your father later on tonight. Maybe it's a I'm cooking potatoes for dinner message. And it moves you because it's from the person who is valuable. It's not, here is a recipe for potatoes. That person could send you a recipe for potatoes, and another person could send you a recipe for potatoes, and it would be insanely invaluable. Like, not valuable at all if it comes from the wrong person. But if that recipe for potato soup comes from your lover, I don't know, you'd probably even pin it to your Pinstagram folder or something, right? It's just, it's so important. It's not what, it's how, and it's who. And when we internalize this and we know how to apply it, which I'm about to show you, you're already halfway to writing delightful emails. How does it sound so far? How are we doing so far?
That was huge, man. This idea, that mind shift of how can I be a person of value, somebody that people value, rather than constantly burden myself with like, am I giving enough value? Am I giving them all the information they need to know? Because there's only so much everybody can read every day or consume or comprehend. I just think about sometimes, like, I'm on a couple of email lists of I'm like on Arnold Schwarzenegger's email list, and like, just because I respect him, I value him, his journey, he's not perfect, but I open all his emails, because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right. And that's such a good way to put it. I love it.
And he could get away with telling you a story about how he slipped on a banana peel this morning and he pulled a tendon, and you'd remember that because it's an interesting story from somebody you care about. Right? So that's what we have to be. We have to take up brain space. We have to set up a timeshare in our prospect's brain, and we can't do that with actionable, valuable content. Actionable, valuable content, right? We can't do it. So let's, this is the core philosophy. This underpins everything. And we need to remember that everything else becomes easier. So let's address those three issues. Firstly, how to write without sounding like somebody else. The first thing that we need to do is build a very clear world that we are operating in. So this is almost like a storytelling exercise. We need to work out what space we are operating from and who we are operating as. And we're going to start to develop a stage, the sound stage from whence our stories come. And I'm talking about putting physical locations in there. If we read emails with our eyes, but we start to associate and memorize things with physical locations. Anybody who's ever done memory work, like how to be a great memorialist or memorizer, will be familiar with the idea of the memory palace. The memory palace takes obscure concepts, perhaps just words that are written on a screen, like an email, for example, and starts to attach them to physical, tangible objects. So we want to include as many physical, tangible objects as we possibly can in our emails, and preferably we repeat them. For example, I'm sitting on my stoop, looking at the savannah in front of me, sipping on a glass of lemonade is a lot more powerful than here are 5 things that you need to do to improve your website's readability, right? Because all of a sudden we're transported into your world. So firstly, we're going to try to invite people into a physical world. It can change from email to email, but I think there is power, much like there is with the soap opera, of repetition of locations. Any Brits in here will be familiar with both Ramsay Street and the Queen Vic, right? The East End, the location of the Neighbours episodes and the location of EastEnders. The other thing that is tricksy, but I think is really, really important, is the creation of a motif. A motif is what you're going to use to associate your personal brand with a physical object. So we've talked about associating the emails with physical locations. Now we want to associate you personally with a tangible object. It's just a gimmick. So the professional pickup artists back in the day, and it was a horrible, horrible industry that some of you might be familiar with. Neil Strauss wrote a book called The Game, which was a story about, in the late 90s, a bunch of geeks, nerds, I guess they'd be called incels nowadays, used to roam up and down Sunset Boulevard, and they had perfected the art of persuading girls to give them their telephone numbers and their kisses and things like this. So it was fascinating from a psychological perspective. And one thing they talked about was peacocking, standing out from the crowd, having a thing which makes you different. And for some people, it was that they painted their nails purple. For others, it was that they wore a large, oversized top hat. For others, it was that they always carried a cane. And I realized that it's much easier for my prospects to remember me if it's not just in intangibles, but also intangibles. So a tangible could be a pet, it could be an item of clothing, it could be a car that you drive, or it could be something that you touch. And in my case, it's whiskey, right? And I think if we were to ask 90% of anybody who's ever come across me more than once to play some kind of word association game, it would be Matthew Kimberley, whiskey. Matthew Kimberley, the whiskey guy. One of my prospects, one of my clients, actually, one of my Book Yourself Solid coaches, I run Book Yourself Solid licensing program. One of our business coaches came to us because he was at a conference that I wasn't at. He ordered an expensive smoky whiskey at the bar, and somebody next to him said, "Who do you think you are, Matthew Kimberley?" And he said, "Who's this Matthew Kimberley?" Well, he's the one who orders the Lagavulin or the Lafroig or whatever it is. Who do you think? Oh, I should probably look this guy up, right? And it's just a gimmick. It's a stupid gimmick. But will I ever be the marketing coach? The marketing coach? Probably not. Will I ever be the email writing guy? Probably not. But what about if we add something to that? Can I ever be the email marketing guy who loves whiskey? Absolutely. Can I be the marketing coach who loves single malt? Absolutely. Why wouldn't we? It's like niche upon niche. And you can have a lot of fun with it. And it also speaks tons about your character as well. The other thing, speaking of character, is characters. Let's put some characters in your emails. Every good story has an antagonist, has a main character and an enemy, a goodie and a baddie. Has sidekicks. My dog appears in a lot of my emails. My kids appear in a lot of my emails. Got to choose who are the people who make recurrent appearances, because people will come into your world again. And so with characters, locations, motifs, you can start to build recurrent themes. And themes are what make people feel comfortable, right? Have you ever bumped into a school teacher outside of school? Feels weird, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been a school teacher, Omar, who's bumped into a student outside of school? It's like
the horror.
And they're like, Mr. Zenhom, you own jeans? What?
Yeah.
And everybody feels a little bit weird. So this is kind of an invitation to stay in your lane. It's like when you've built this world, and when you are when you're consistent with what you talk about, the kind of language that you use, the kind of people that are in your world, don't feel that you have to reinvent the wheel. 90% of effective sales and marketing is repetition. It's repetition. The idea that anyone's paying enough attention that we can get away with saying something different. I don't know how many of you are coaches. I imagine a large number of you. The big error that coaches make is that they feel they have to address everything that's going on in the world. And if you follow popular people on Instagram, one week they'll be telling you how to get more Instagram followers, and the next minute they'll be telling you what the perfect morning routine is. And the week after that, they'll be telling you how breath work is going to cure you. And the week after that, they'll be showing you how to grow a Facebook group. And you're like, well, what am I following you for? Stay in your lanes, choose 2 or 3 core themes that you continue to be known for. So difficult to be known for everything. Much easier to be known for 1 or 2 small things. But really what we're coming towards now is what we've talked about is what surrounds us. The whiskey that we're holding, the chair that we're sitting in, the people that we're hanging out with. But what we're really talking about is the power of persona, because you need to become that valuable person. Be authentic or just be yourself is dangerous advice for many people. I swear. No, it's really dangerous. We are, if my kids, who I love more than anything, don't get to see every side of me. They don't get to see when I'm scared. They don't get to see when I'm very upset. I protect them from that because I am the head of the family. And now you, whatever your life coach, business coach, wannabe guru, mentor has said about vulnerable authenticity being the key to people's hearts, has never run a business. You tell the CEO of any Fortune 50 company that he has to face the press and the prospects and tell the truth about his health, about his hemorrhoids, about the relationship that he has with his wife, he will laugh you out of the room. She will laugh you out of the room. Instead, you go and you stay on point, you stay relevant, and you stay in your lane. But you have to be clear who is saying this word. So who is saying this words? There's a quote I want to share with you. It's not generally acknowledged or discussed, but the personality we project to the world plays a substantial role in our success and in our ascension to mastery. And this is from Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Understand, people will tend to judge you based on your outward appearance. If you are not careful and simply assume that it's best to be yourself, they will ascribe to you all kinds of qualities that have little to do with you, but correspond to what they want to see. Your only protection is to turn this dynamic around by consciously molding these appearances, creating the image that suits you, and controlling people's judgments. You must see the creation of a persona as a key element in social intelligence and a key element in email marketing and branding and running a one-person or personality-led business, full stop. If I were to show you under the kimono, unstrategically, that would be an absolute disaster. For me, for you, for the kind of relationship that we want. My clients have come to me for leadership, and I'm not sharing my vulnerable authenticity with them unless we're having a whiskey and we've since become friends, frankly. In order to do that, you're going to have to be a little bit polarizing. We want you to be magnetic because that's what makes people stick to you. But every magnet has a north and a south. And the quickest way to magnetism, the quickest way to be charismatic, the quickest way to get people on your side is to make it crystal clear who you're not for and what you're not for. The minute you can't stand for something unless you're against something. Every magnet attracts and repels. To be attractive, you must be repellent. You must be repellent, which means you need to be bold, which means you've got to remember that 5% of the people on your list, maybe 10% of the people on your list will buy from you. And you should be measuring success. You should be filtering out even before they get onto your list. The kind of people who you want in your world. In my world, I don't want people who can't face bad language. I swear, right? And unless I swear loud enough, and I do it strategically as well, unless I swear by means of example loud enough, then I'm going to attract people who get very offended by that, and we're off to a bad start. If you look at the most charismatic, magnetic people in the world, they have as many detractors as they have adorers. If I would say to you, Justin Bieber, love him or hate him, you'd say yes. If I would say Donald Trump, love him or hate him, you would say yes. I say Lady Gaga, love her or hate her, yes. Any politician who gets millions of people voting for him has millions of people who don't want to vote for him, and in fact who will scream at him. That's the only way to be charismatic. It's the only way to get people to listen to you. So in my course Delightful Emails, I have an entire section which asks you to look in the mirror and work out which aspects of your character, true aspects of your character, need amplifying. I'm not asking you to be somebody you're not. I'm asking you to amplify the relevant parts of your character that are going to say, this is what I'm for and this is what I'm against. Picking a common enemy is a really easy way to start with this. And you can pick a small enemy like mornings. You know, nobody really gets offended if you say mornings. Or you could pick a big enemy like Democrats or Christians, right? Or a named individual. Picking a fight within your industry is a sure way to get an army behind you. Now, you may not want to go that far. You don't have to. But it happens every single day. I've seen people run $1 million launches in the last 2 years by picking fights and getting a group of people who agree. It has to be true. It has to be genuine. But there's an army of people who are feeling it but not saying it, and they will flock to you. So you're going to look in the mirror. You're going to go through a massive assessment. What do you stand for? What are your limits of appropriateness? Etc. How far will you go to the edge in this area? How far will you go to the edge in this area? What are your taboo subjects? What will never be discussed? What are your taboo subjects that you really want to get stuck in with? And you're going to come up with what I call a persona profile. I'm going to share you the end result, my end result. Matthew Kimberley is a sophisticated, eloquent, fiercely witty, and yes, handsome James Bond-esque British playboy. He's known for his erudite vocabulary and elegant presentation skills, unflappable, unconventional, always unfazed, never without a stiff drink or a sharp anecdote. Trust him with your business, but not your wife. Now, this isn't really me. It's a kind of version of me that I would like to be in the movies. It's a version of me that sits down to write my emails. Matthew Kimberley doesn't sit down to write an email because Matthew Kimberley doesn't always know doesn't always have an opinion, frankly. But this Matthew Kimberley always has an opinion, and he always has a comeback, and he always feels entirely supreme and entirely self-confident. If any of you have read Todd Herman's Alter Ego, this explores this for
the same thing.
This explores this for other areas of your life. The persona profile is very similar. Yeah, Todd Herman's Alter Ego explores how if you can step into your superhero cape or another person's skin to some extent when you're on the field of play, that helps. And developing this field. And by the way, I did this presentation for something like 2,000 of Todd Herman's clients a couple of years ago, and they ate it all up because this ties in very nicely. So, and Isabel, I'll just address this very briefly. Yeah, you absolutely should pick things you love and things that you hate. But it's much easier to know what you're for if you're clear what you're against as well. And this is, a lot of people talk about what they love, but are afraid to talk about what they hate. And I think we have to appeal holistically to people's emotional complexions, which are well-rounded. Everything has an opposite force. And I think we're missing a trick if we only present one side. It doesn't have to be strong. You don't have to be hateful. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to be hateful. Your persona may not be a hateful persona, but you might rally very strongly for justice and rally against things that you see as unjust. So let's talk about what to write about.
Omar. Sorry to just jump in. Yeah,
go ahead. Give my voice a break. Go.
Yeah, I think this is a very challenging exercise for many. I know it was for me to kind of just decide I'm gonna not be suitable for everybody or just try to please everybody. Sometimes I will have to take a stand somewhere. If I don't take a stand, then I don't really resonate with anybody. And it doesn't have to be like super aggressive or anything like that. Like recently I published an episode, or it's about to publish, on the $100 MBA show, the podcast, about diversity, and I start the episode by saying, if you look at your about page and you look at your team and everybody looks like you have a problem. And not from like a moral standpoint, and you can just kind of have a unique spin on it. And my unique spin is that it's actually bad for business. Like, it's actually not going to create a great product if you don't have a diverse team. You're not going to be able to influence the world if you don't have the world represented in your team. And sometimes I think people, when they hear this messaging, they feel like, oh, maybe I have to like be outlandish, or I have to be like extreme. You don't really need to be extreme, but I just chose something that I really feel strongly about. And I don't have a problem with people not agreeing with me with this one, because this is just something that's a core belief of mine that I know that a lot of people might take offense or might say, well, are you saying that I'm not diverse? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I believe this is better business.
There we go. And I'm sure the feedback you got for that was polarized in the best sense. Mm-hmm. People would have cheered you very loudly, and probably a few people would have made some decisions never to work with you again, which is great. It's exactly what we want. I mean, it's precisely what we want. At Book Yourself Solid, we say there are some people you're meant to serve and others not so much. So what to write about? Firstly, you're going to have to create some prompts, right? This is a short exercise. You can do it once a month, typically over a cup of coffee or a bottle of wine, whatever is your preferred beverage. We're going to come up with 2 sets of prompts that we always have on standby. You keep them in your Evernote folder, you keep them in your notes folder, you keep them in a notebook. Doesn't really matter. The first type is subject matter prompts. This is the how-to content. If you are an expert in email writing, you're going to talk about subject lines, you're going to talk about sign-offs, you're going to talk about how to write emails. If you are a business coach, you might like to talk about managing a team or something. You're going to know what the kind of thing that your clients pay you for, frankly. We're going to come up with a list of prompts that we keep in a little tickler folder, which means we're never empty. The other kind of prompts, though, the more interesting part, the part that make the emails delightful, is creative prompts. Creative prompts are stories. They're things. They are, what could I talk about today? And the answer is always very simply, what kind of conversation would you have with a friend? What did you talk to your friends about today? And I'm going to show you specifically how to do this. So I'm going to move quite quickly now. These are the 2 lists that I always have, that I think you should always have. A list of ideas for stories, for want of a better word. They could also be opinions or reactions, but typically they're not subject matter related at all. This is the correspondence part rather than the teaching part. And then we have subject matter prompts as well, which is frankly, what do I want to talk to people? What do I want people to do? What do I want to teach them? How do I want to demonstrate my expertise? We have to do all of that in our emails as well. We have a couple of strategies in the Delightful Emails course, maybe 3 or 4 strategies, including the fractal strategy, including the library strategy, including the daily drip strategy. The daily drip is a really fun and easy one. It takes 2 minutes at the end of every day. We basically sit down without giving too many secrets away. We sit down and we say, who did I meet today? What did I smell today? What did I taste today? What did I watch today? What did I laugh at today? What did I get angry about today? What do I remember about today? Until we come up with talking points, the kind of things that if you have a close relationship, perhaps you're with your mother who calls you every day, you say, what did you get up to today? Oh, well, met Sue for a cup of coffee and took the kids to the pool. It's just that we're just writing a list of, it's almost like a little bullet journal. And then we have the alphabet method. And the alphabet method is exactly what it sounds like. And we're going to do this for subject matter prompts. We're going to do it exactly like this. We're going to do it in real time right now by means of example. You start with a blank page. And on that blank page, you write down the letters of the alphabet. Very simply, 2 columns like this, or just A through to Z on a piece of paper. And then we do a little exercise. And as long as it takes us to drink a cup of coffee, we're going to come up with as many subject matter prompts as possible. So if somebody could give me a profession in the chat, any profession, maybe yours, maybe somebody else's. And I'm going to do an example. Lifeguard, brilliant. Okay, so lifeguard is the profession, and we're teaching people or talking to people about lifeguarding and things that they would consider. We're going to pour ourselves a cup of tea, and we're just going to riff. Now, bear in mind, if you are a lifeguard, this is going to be roughly 1,000 times easier for you than it is going to be for me and Omar right now. Omar doesn't realize he's participating in this with me, because you know your subject matter inside out. But we're going to go through, we're not going to, if we have to skip one, we're going to skip one, but we're going to try to come up with 5 to 10 different subject matter prompts for the lifeguard. And these could be 1-word prompts that we expand upon. And we're just going to use the letters as a trigger. So I'm going to skip A, and I'm just going to say beach. Okay, so beach, and then I'm going to riff off that. I'm going to go beach safety. Which beach is the safest? Beach.
Costa Rica.
Beach what?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Okay, life saving in Costa Rica. D could be, I don't know, dinner before swimming. Good idea. G could be girls versus boys. Who's safer in the water? Stupid ideas. Okay, but Omar gave me another idea there, because he said Costa Rica beaches, which are the safest. Well, how about then we also go to Guatemala beaches, which are the safest? And all of a sudden we have 220 email ideas, because the 220, well, maybe not 220, but any country that has a beach, all of a sudden, do you see what we've just done? And I gave you a daft example, but Omar said Costa Rica, and using the fractal method, I did the brainstorming tree, level after level after level. Or C, countries of the world, which has the highest fatalities on the beach. You know, B, buoyancy aids. Man, buoyancy aid is, if we're writing 1 email a week, is a balloon a good buoyancy aid? Email number 1 is
H. Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff, yeah, best lifeguard movies and TV shows. You know, you realize now, if we riff off these single ideas, we've probably come up with, and if we were to spend an hour on this, we've got 5 years worth of email prompts. We have 5 years worth of ideas if you're structured about it. It's as simple as this, right? And you're going to do it for you, but Google autofill is great, fantastic. Yeah, it's good, but you know, you don't even need a computer to do this one. You just need a bottle of wine. So that's one of the ways that we generate ideas, right? One of the ways that we generate ideas, we have subject matter prompts and creative prompts. And then we get to actually writing the email. This is the bit you've been waiting for. So, and by the way, you can do that in the next 5 minutes. You can go away and create a year's worth of emails in the next 5 minutes just using the alphabet method. But we really want to make it delightful. Every email has this structure. This is the skeleton of every email. Has a subject line, has a greeting, has a flesh, has a segue, has a point, a call to action or a call to reaction, and a sign off. And we're going to write an email now. Okay, we're going to write an email in real time, and then we're going to write a brand new email using ideas from the audience in real time as well. This is the order. This order is super important if you want to do it really, really quickly. We always begin with the call to action or the call to reaction. So the first thing that I've put in here is click to buy my course. Always start with that. This is the way I write every email. The second part is easy, the sign off. That's your name. Okay, 2 out of 7 done, right? That's going to have taken you absolutely no time. You know, this email is about to promote something that you're promoting, for example, and we always start with those last 2 bits. Then we put in the greeting. Dear John, dear first name, hey, yo, whatever it is.
Go use Yo. I saw that.
Right?
I follow Matthew on Instagram, and he wrote Yo, and that was polarizing for some people. So this is a good example of like, you're not going to please everybody. And somebody replied to him, like, don't ever send me an email with Yo. Like,
Yeah.
Yo is offensive. I guess it is.
Listen, in the course in Delightful Emails, we go through 1,000 ways that you can add your personality. I think the way that you greet, I think the way that you sign off, each one of these can be a branding and an endearing opportunity. I have a specific way that I sign off. I have a specific way that I open. But the important thing is that you develop your way of doing it, because every line of the email is a branding opportunity. And actually, you know what? I'm just about to jump on a plane. We're about to hit that point where transatlantic flight, where all of a sudden the Wi-Fi is going to cut out. There is no more access. I have to hit send, and this is all I've written. I hit send to my list of 1,000 people, and when I land in LA 8 hours later, I've made 50 sales. Maybe. Right? Maybe not. But this email is a passable email from a valuable person. If my wife sent me this email, I would buy the bloody thing. Matt, buy this course. Okay. Right? It comes from a valuable person. The instruction is important. It's an incomplete email. We're not going to send it if we don't have to. But when it comes from, even with no subject line, doesn't matter. This email is good enough, right? But we do want to add some context next. And that's point 5. So the context is the point. And this email really is good enough to send. Dear John, I have a great class on email writing that's available at discount for the next few days. Click here to buy it now. This email is going to be highly effective when you've built up a relationship with your list. It really will be. You don't have to sweat it. You're not going to send every email like that. It's just going to be boring. But when you can build that relationship through other delightful emails, sometimes the most delightful emails, hey, you might be interested in this. You know how many affiliate competitions I kick ass in, by the way? I have a teeny tiny list compared to the big boys. I am always up there at the top. I say always, I'm blowing my own horn. I am disproportionately represented in affiliate contest links, in affiliate contest leaderboards, because my recommendation counts for so much. Others are sweating, getting their copywriters to redraft the swipe. And I could be like, hey, listen, Omar's a good buddy of mine and he's doing this thing and I'd really strongly recommend you check it out. Because the trust is so strong, that's all I need to say. Well, Matthew, why are you here? Matthew said. So it's not a delightful email yet, though. We want to make it delightful. And the flesh is where the delight lays. I've got a very mediocre example for you, but it's an example of what you can get away with and how we should be thinking. We're going to add something which shows a little bit of your personality. And we started in this case with an opinion. It doesn't always have to be a story. It can be an opinion or a stance. So, dear John, I hate socks with sandals, chocolate ice cream, and people who text and drive. And this person is reading this going either me too, or ha ha, or oh yeah, I'll let you get away with that, or something. But at least expresses an opinion, right? Hate is a strong word, and it's fun to play with. But it's not enough to go from I hate socks with sandals, chocolate ice cream, people who text and drive to I have a great class on email writing. There's nothing that makes that first sentence relevant or compatible with the second sentence. So the segue allows you to write nothing to your list and invite them to buy your stuff. And I said at the beginning of this, you can get away with writing absolutely nothing. The segue allows you to do that. So we're going to tie in sentence 1 with sentence 3 with a very clever sentence, or part 1 with part 3 with a very, very sophisticated part 2. I hate socks with sandals, chocolate ice cream, people who text and drive. A lot of people I know hate writing emails. Maybe you do, but I love it. And I found out how to make it really easy. In fact, I have a great class on email writing, etc., etc., etc. You see, it's just we've taken... Omar's mind has been blown.
This is why we brought Matthew on.
Can you
the
connect?
segue is killer.
The way to connect black with white, or X with Y, or the ice cream with hot chocolate is through a segue. If you can master the segue, the first 80% of your email can be you telling on my last vacation, and then, oh, by the way, buy these shoes that I'm selling. So let's do a real. Oh, and then the subject line. Here's what I think about subject lines. They don't matter when you write delightful emails. The idea that your list, who you have a trusting relationship with, is going to be more likely to open your email, importantly more likely, because of some trick or hint. Now, are subject lines important for cold or transactional emails? Absolutely, 100%. Are they important for regular email writing? Yeah, of course they are, but they're not nearly as important as people give them weight to. They're not nearly as important. Doesn't mean that you don't try, right? But it does mean that you don't sweat. So let's try an example.
I love the subject line as last. I love that because the subject line is easy. Once I've never thought about writing my subject line last, but now when you broke it down, it's so much easier to come up with a subject line that makes sense, that is congruent when you have the rest of the email already done. So I love that. That's another great little tip.
So let's do a real life example. In the chat, please, let's have a location. That was fun. Okay, the North Pole is fun, and it was the first one to come in. Okay, what are we selling? Anybody who says ice or Eskimos is banned. Has to be something completely opposite, completely off the charts. Front porch. Okay, Jackson. Oh no, the front porch was the location. Okay. Continuing education. A storage shed. Okay, a storage shed. Very good. North Pole, storage shed. And then any object, animal, mineral, vegetable, doesn't matter, just any object.
Scissors.
Okay, scissors. We're selling a storage shed. Okay. Hey, Omar. On my last vacation, I thought I'd go left field and jumped on a plane due north to the North Pole. When I arrived, I was thrilled that I'd packed everything I needed. I had weatherproof boots, weatherproof coat, weatherproof gloves, and a weatherproof hat. You never can quite tell what the weather is going to be doing in the North Pole, but you can be sure that it's going to be cold. As I was out trekking on my first day, I lost my guide. I ended up walking in the great white expanse. It was only because they sent out a search party that I was rescued, freezing cold, shivering, and frostbitten 6 hours later. Oh boy, what I wouldn't have given to have turned a corner and seen a storage shed that I could have taken shelter in. I decided that I'm never going to be in that situation again. From now on, anywhere I travel is going to have a good supply of storage sheds, and I will never be more than 50 meters away from one. It could have saved my life, and it could save yours. To get a 50% discount on your next shed order, click here right now. See ya.
That's impressive. That's impressive. That is impressive.
All right. So
Simon, where's that?
Stupid, fun
Do you take
example, but it does go to demonstrate a stupid, fun example, but it goes to demonstrate that you can tie one thing in with another very, very easily. So now you know it's not what you write, it's who write the emails, and it's how you make the reader feel. You know how to generate a year's worth of content in the next 15 minutes, and you know you have the skeleton for writing the damn thing. So you're now at this decision point where you get to make a decision. You know, you can do it on your own, which is great. You have lots of information that you didn't have an hour ago, or you can do it with me. And if you do want to do it differently, you can choose to start right now, or you can choose to hit the snooze button, and we all know what happens. We all know what happens when we hit the snooze button. So I'm going to make a suggestion for the next step, okay? And if you feel that it's something you want to do and jump on today, then I'll be thrilled to be your guide. I have a program called Delightful Emails. You've seen some of the materials in there, but actually there's an entirely comprehensive 6-module course that I put together that I'm thrilled with and that thousands of people have enjoyed. In module 1, we talk about the philosophical underpinnings of the email, how to reduce friction, how to get writing technology to be your friend, the essential components of every email. Module 2 and 3 are about voice development and style guide creation. So I said the persona is the most important thing in the email. This is about building the stories. This is about testing your limits, your adventures in appropriateness, what themes are going to be yours, what your motif is going to be. And then we're going to translate that into your style guide so that your emails are unmistakably yours in the voice that you choose to put forward. We're going through the full suite of email idea generation, prompting process, subject matter prompts, creative prompts, alphabet method, library method, fractal method, daily drip, all the rest. Then we go through in with specific, not the 2-minute overview I just gave you, but specific details and guidance. What makes a good subject line? What makes a good segue? What is the difference between flesh and a point? Calls to action, calls to reaction, reuse and repetition, its importance. And then we go through my specific writing process, how to write quickly, how to rewrite for comprehension, how to rewrite for delight. You would be amazed what looking at an email through the lens of delight does. You can make 2 or 3 tiny changes. In fact, if you have a copywriter, an email copywriter on staff, I would say this process is so well developed, you can very easily get somebody else to be you once you've developed it. This is what it looks like. It's actually on a slightly different platform now, but the videos are all delivered by me writing on my slides. I've since shifted to Kajabi, but it's neither here nor there. There's an audio file with every video. Each module is broken down into 5 or 6 short videos. You see this one is about 8 minutes long. So there's 5 videos between 8 and 15 minutes long. Each one has an audio file. Each one has annotated slides, and each one has a fully comprehensive workbook. And the workbooks I'm very proud of. I gave them to an instructional designer because, you know, we all have different learning styles. Some people like to watch, some people like to read, some people like to listen. This is module 5's workbook. So we can see we've got 20 pages of guided learning to do with each one. So there's really no excuse, no reason for failure, if you like. So the promise is you will write easier, more effective, more delightful emails, more money, more joy, more fun in the most comprehensive, fun, evergreen, by which I mean it's not technology dependent, and always relevant course on creating emails that pay on the market. And I think that's important. We've talked a lot about making people feel good, but this is 100% how I make my living. I live in Malta. I run Book Yourself Solid now, but for the last decade, I didn't. I wasn't part of a larger organization. I ran my own coaching business. I ran programs. I ran courses. I did one-to-one coaching. I did odd programs. And emails were what paid the bills day in, day out. Never had a local client. And I'm very happy about that. Omar, do I go to the questions tab, or were there questions in the...
Yeah, questions tab, we'll have them all ordered for you.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look. Isabel says, what if you're naturally a bubbly person? So this is all about the persona development. If you're naturally a bubbly person, great. You've got to play to your strengths, and you're going to be looking at the areas in which you can incorporate your bubbliness. I think the question came in when I was saying, you know, it can be dangerous to be overtly enthusiastic. Or perhaps there's a life coach whose website is covered in pastels and pinks and blues and has lots of cotton candy and I don't know, popsicles on her website, and you've been inspired to be like, hey, you've got to play to your strengths, but you've got to play to your strengths. I've seen far too many copycats out there where a lot of the internet marketers look like internet marketers, a lot of the life coaches look like life coaches. And that's because we look at other people, we say, well, if they're doing it, I should probably do it too. My approach challenges that and says, what about if you did it your way? And that's what I'm looking for. Is there an ideal frequency of emails per week? Great question, Egal. You know, who knows? I know that there's probably an ideal frequency of emails per week for you. And that's the important thing. You know, you may find that writing, I think we should be writing more than once a month. You know, I think a couple of times a month, and ideally at least once a week. But also I have no problem with once a day. Absolutely no problem. I wrote a daily email. what year are we now? 2021. Probably back in 2015, I used to write a daily email. I wrote it for about a year. It was an exercise in self-discipline. It was a chance for me to hone my email writing chops and get better at it. And it was fun. And it was a challenge. And I never missed a day, apart from once or twice. And the 2 days when I missed a day, I had an email from an angry lady in Australia who said, I was waiting for your email because when my phone dings, I used to send it at the same time every day. I forget what time it was, but it was her bedtime. And she would say, the only person who emails me at that time of day is you. And when I hear my phone ding, I read it and then I go to bed. I stayed up all night waiting for your email. So people will get very angry if you get used to writing to them every day and then you stop. They'll be like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Is everything all right? I didn't see a direct correlation between, the amount of money I was making and the number of emails I was sending. A daily email didn't mean, if you're writing once a week, and you switch to daily, it doesn't mean you're going to make 5 times more money. So I cut myself some slack and now email, a few times a month, maybe 5, 6 times a month, maybe 8, maybe more. But it's important that you set the tone at the beginning. And somebody asked a question about a welcome sequence, which I saw a second ago. I think the email sequence at the beginning will educate people on what to expect. But also don't forget context. Right, people have come to you from somewhere. And so there's got to be congruency between your marketing activity and your email selling activity. If you're marketing as a fluffy poodle lover and you're emailing as a Rottweiler, then there's a lack of congruency. So this is a whole question about personal brand development. Everyone, if they experience you because they've seen you speak on stage or because they've read a book that you've written or they've listened to a podcast, they deserve the same experience in writing. And the problem with a lot of people is they don't know how to deliver that experience in writing because they're finding their voices so hard. So they are themselves when they're on podcasts or on stage or on panels or on Instagram. But when it comes to email, they lose the love. Do you think that bots will be trained to be as delightful as we are and make us obsolete? I think, yeah, they probably will. Honestly, I think they probably will. Peter says, I'm wondering about my visual motif. My enjoyment of beer isn't workable because some of my customers are substance abuse organizations. Okay. My company's an IT service provider on the side. I love off-roading and my customers see me roll up in a 4x4. Would this be an appropriate motif to use? Absolutely. Absolutely. The off-roading IT guy. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. That'd be fun. Could be a big set of wheels or something. It's great. Yeah. Anything which helps us with that. It's great. I like that. Isabel, we discussed your question earlier. What's your opinion, thoughts on writing under a pen name? If you're consistent, go for it. Why not? If you feel you should. I've certainly written under a pen name in the past. I used to have a restaurant review column in Belgium, and it was quite important that people didn't know my identity. I'd ask why are you writing under a pen name? And there are tons of legitimate reasons to write under a pen name, but if it's because you're afraid of something, ask if that fear is genuine, because sometimes it can be quite liberating to stick 2 fingers up to the world. I've known people from communities that may not approve of what they're doing, or perhaps they wouldn't want to tell their kids that they're writing erotic literature or something like that. And I totally understand it. But if you are a one-person self-employed organization, I can see absolutely no reason to write under a pen name. If you're an e-commerce brand, sure, why not? Who cares? As long as the emails come from somebody, a person, that's important. There's a reason that breakfast cereal companies create cartoon characters to go with their Wheatios, because people buy from people want that association, that emotional connection. It's very difficult to be emotionally connected to a bowl of muesli. It's quite easy to be emotionally connected to a bowl of Frosties because of Tony the Tiger, right? Yeah. Do you recommend an email welcome series? Yes, I do. I think it's a good idea. Here's who I am, here's what to expect, and here's what I want you to buy right now. As soon as people sign up for your list, it's a great opportunity to say, hey, thanks for making that first investment. Why don't you make the second? People are hot on you. Typically, people go cold on you within minutes, especially on the internet. Within minutes of finding you, by the time they've excitedly reached your thank you for giving us your email page, they click the confirmation email, and then you've got their attention for maybe 10 minutes. So that's when they're hot on you. So I see no problem. Say, hey, since you're here, here's what you need to know, and here's how you can invest again. How long would you say it would take to build a good connection and trust with people on your list, says Isabel? How long's a piece of string? You do it well, hopefully not too long. I do a speaking gig and somebody will come up to me, 45 minutes, and come up to me and say, listen, I want to spend $25,000 on hiring you to be my private coach. And I'll be like, but you've only known me for 45 minutes. How can trust have developed to the point of $25,000 in 45 minutes? And they're like, no, I'm convinced. And other people will have experienced that as well. And I go back to my hotel room the same day and I read my emails and somebody has written, hey, Matthew, just thought I'd let you know, I've been on your list for 7 years and I just bought a copy of your book. So it took one person 7 years to spend 10 bucks. And it took another person 45 minutes to spend 25,000 bucks. So who can tell? I certainly think frequency helps. If you're only writing to people once a month, then you're not giving them much exposure to you. So if you can expose yourselves to them, you're more likely to get arrested. If you can expose yourself to them, then you're more likely to get them showing a little bit of flesh back, I guess. My video paused. Can you list the order of the steps again? Not right now. So no need to write free in subject lines. No, you don't need to write free. What not to write there, Matthew? You know, I honestly, I am interested in subject lines, but I think the majority of people who are asking questions about subject lines, and I don't include you in this, Rosario, and maybe you were writing slightly tongue-in-cheek anyway, but I've seen people making no revenue go to classes on perfect subject lines. And there are 1,000 far more important things. I have seen people pre-revenue spend 2 hours reading a website design manual that teaches them what color their buy now buttons need to be. If you're pre-revenue, the color of your buttons shouldn't matter. If you have 500,000 people on your list and it's e-commerce, and you know that split testing subject lines or split testing button colors is going to mean an uptick of thousands of dollars for you, of course you should be investing time in that. If you're a coach, forget about it. If you're a gardener, forget it. If you're a dentist, forget about it. Make sure you've got a brand that you're happy with, stick with the colors, and subject lines will take care of themselves. Is this the framework you use for your single malt mastermind emails? Categorically, 100% yes. Always a story followed by a call to reaction. Do you ever include GIFs, pictures, or anything else? I never do, but that's only because my style guide doesn't, the style guide that I've developed doesn't deal, James Bond, doesn't deal with GIFs or dancing images or anything like that, or pictures. From a usability point of view, I think the less clutter, the better. You never quite know how somebody's email reader is going to render your email. You never quite know, and I've always been a fan of plain text. That said, a logo stuck up in the top, or one of my friends always frequently includes some kind of GIF or an image just to hammer home a point, and she's a very talented writer and I love it, but my personal preference is no. So thank you for joining.
I know that. Yeah, so I was
Omar,
about the image.
Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. I was just going to touch on the image and then just kind of thank you. I personally don't like a lot of images because, like what Matthew said, that a lot of email readers will not load images or ask permission to load images. Deliverability is often better, and it will end up in inbox without images because depending on the marketing, the email service, if it's Gmail, they might throw it in the promotions folder because it looks like e-commerce marketing with a bunch of images. That's just my personal preference, but I know that people that email frequently and are trying to write delightful emails. I think you've met Mario Brown, right, Matthew? At Webinar Ninja Live, I think so. And he writes a daily email. Like I get an email from him every single day, and at the end of every email, he has this image of him and his family, just different photos of. They're at the beach. They're having dinner. It could be a recent one. It could be an old one. But Matthew has 2 kids, and Maria, and you just being on the email list, and that builds that kind of knowing who he is and that rapport. So even just that single image, I could see how it could work. Matthew, this was amazing. I think you've really unlocked a lot of different things in all our brains in terms of looking at email in a different way. I do want to encourage everybody that is that's watching this now or in the replay. I also want to just ask everybody in the chat, if you enjoyed today's session, let me know. Did you get a win today? We'd love to hear from you. Would you want to hear more from Matthew, and bring him on for more workshops? Let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from everybody if they got a win today and if they want more.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'd be really happy to welcome anybody. Any friend of Omar's, I've always said, is a friend of mine. I will take very good care of you. Jump into Delightful Emails and you will supercharge, you'll turbocharge your emails, and you'll be an excellent company. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Omar. Thank you very much, ninjas. And we'll see you inside Delightful Emails. Bye for now.